Tansei, good afternoon. I'm Chris Nashkate. Welcome to APTN National News Daytime. Thank you for joining us. For a second day in a row, police in Ginugaming First Nation in northwestern Ontario are telling residents to shelter in place and lock their doors and windows as they search for two suspects believed to be armed and dangerous. They are not releasing any information as to why they are looking for these suspects. The Anishinaabe Police Service and the OPP continue to search Ginugaming this morning, checking homes, backyards, and the area. The suspects are described as two black males, with one wearing a gray jogging suit with braided hair, and the other one is wearing black pants and black shoes. Local schools are also closed for a second day to ensure safety of the students and staff. Motorists are also advised to not stop and pick up any hitchhikers along Highway 11. And if you see anything suspicious, call 911 immediately. Ginugaming First Nation is located about 315 kilometers northeast of Thunder Bay. Police are expected to hold a press conference about this situation later today. A man in his 50s is in critical condition following a serious assault in a First Nation in northwestern Manitoba. According to the RCMP, last Thursday on October 2nd at around 2 a.m., members of the Swan River Detachment received a report of an assault at a home in Weskwesipik First Nation. When they arrived, they located a 53-year-old man with serious injuries on a roadway. He was transported to a nearby hospital, then transferred to another hospital in Winnipeg, where he remains in critical condition. Last Monday, RCMP Major Crimes took over the investigation. RCMP are now asking the public for tips and information that could lead to an arrest. The investigation continues this week. Alberta RCMP are asking the public for any tips about a First Nations man missing for more than 5 months in the northeastern part of the province. According to Goodfish Lake RCMP, 25-year-old Joshua Francis Soto was last seen on May 5th in the Goodfish Lake and Whitefish Lake First Nation area. He is 5'10", 190 pounds with brown eyes and brown hair. In an interview with APTN News, Soto's uncle Francis Morin says weeks prior to Soto's disappearance, he won $1 million on a scratch-and-win ticket, bought an RV, and lived in it at his mom's house near the south entrance of Whitefish Lake. Then on May 5th, Soto was nowhere to be found and blood was found in his RV. Soto did not have his vehicle at the time. Morin says the family has done numerous searches in the community and says both the RCMP and his community of Whitefish Lake First Nation could have assisted more in the search for their loved one.
They searched for a bit and then it seemed like the trail has gone cold concerning everything. And he was a young man, 25 years old. He had a good heart. He was a kind person. He looked after, he'd take my nieces and nephews out shopping. He would take them to movies, and he's not just a missing person. He's a loved one to us, and we're deeply grieved and saddened that all this has been happening. And we're just trying to find any hint, anything for us to find him. Any hint, if anyone's watching and you know something, we don't even care if they did it or anything. We just want to find his body and lay him to rest. He deserves that much.
Whitefish Lake First Nation is located about 180 kilometers northeast of Edmonton. If anyone knows where Joshua Francis Soto is, you are asked to contact RCMP or Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-8477. We will also have a web story with more information about Joshua's disappearance posted to our website at aptnnews.ca later this afternoon. About 50 people gathered outside the Federal Court of Appeal in downtown Ottawa on Wednesday to show their support for the Kabewik First Nation in Quebec, in opposition to a proposed radioactive waste disposal site at Chalk River, located about 180 kilometers northwest of the city. Fraser Needham reports.
And with Mother Earth comes our Algonquin Elder Claudette Commanda told the crowd Canadian Nuclear Laboratories, CNL, wants to build the site on the shores of the Ottawa River, and this is the last place it should be located.
That we all have a responsibility to protect the river, and there will be no nuclear waste on any of our waters or our land. And let's say that together, water is life.
The Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission gave the green light to CNL to build the facility in 2024, but the Kabeyak First Nation took the decision to court and received 2 favorable rulings. In separate decisions, the court ruled CNL had not met its duty to consult and had violated the Species at Risk Act. CNL asked for a judicial review of both rulings, the first of which, on duty to consult, began on Wednesday in Ottawa. Kabeyak First Nation Chief Lance Heyman had this to say during a break from the hearing.
Inside our courthouse, our legal team is standing up for something simple but powerful, that laws must mean something and promises must be kept. Canada passed a law to implement the United Nations right on Indigenous peoples. Canada passed the Species at Risk Act to protect fragile life and ecosystems. Yet here we are, having to remind the government to follow its own laws. This isn't a court case, it's a test of values.
Both the NDP and Bloc Québécois are supporting Kabeyak and its opposition to the proposed site. NDP MP Leah Gazan said both CNL and government need to live up to the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, which is enshrined in law.
Time and time again, this government says one thing, it's doing another. I'm going to stand to uphold the rule of law, and that includes the right of Indigenous peoples as affirmed through the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples.
Bloc Québécois MP Sébastien Lemire added, with so much opposition, CNL needs to find another location.
But I think we are on breaking points. I think the evidence is a show, and of course thanks to the First Nation to make this battle, particularly, but it's to the more than 140 municipality towns and was opposed to the project of Chalk River. So the reality now, find another site.
Federal Court of Appeal will hear the application for a judicial review on the violation of the Species at Risk Act on November 12th. Fraser Needham, APTN National News, Ottawa.
The Assembly of First Nations National Conservation Gathering wrapped up in Cape Breton on Wednesday. Mi'kmaq land protectors were given a platform there to speak about protecting Hunter's Mountain. APTN video journalist Angel Moore reports.
At the Member 2 Trade and Convention Centre in the Member 2 First Nation, Unamagi, Mi'kmaq for Cape Breton, First Nations from across the country gathered to discuss conservation and stewardship. Mi'kmaq land protectors Cynthia Paul, Roger Toney, and Duma Wilson spoke at the AFN's gathering. Toney invited the crowd to Hunter's Mountain.
It's not a protest. It's a gathering for us land protectors to protect our resources, and we want to keep welcoming everybody to come join us, come eat, come have a tea or a coffee and, chat about it, and even come have a look for yourself to see, the devastation that's happening in our abundance of resources.
Mi'kmaq land protectors have set up a checkpoint at Hunter's Mountain to take back stewardship and to save the forest from clear cutting, despite a new provincial law that says it is illegal to block or impede access on forest roads. Terry Dorward is the Conservation Director for the West Coast Indigenous Protected and Conservation Areas. He visited Hunter's Mountain and says he supports the land protectors.
Because the government of Nova Scotia cannot run roughshod on the Mi'kmaq rights and responsibilities to their land. They're trying to protect a way of life. We're living in the 21st century, and this colonization and these aggressive tactics need to stop.
The land protectors say when treaty rights are violated, it affects all nations.
We're all treaty people, and we've signed this treaty as a whole, and to make it work, we have to work together as a whole, right? The treaties aren't being listened to.
As the gathering wraps up, the land protectors say they are prepared to face jail and/or fines to protect the mountain and will never leave Hunter's Mountain. Angel Moore, APTN National News, Member 2 First Nation, Unamagi.
A group of faculty members at the First Nations University of Canada in Regina says they have lost confidence in the university's leadership and board of directors. They say there has been a troubling exodus of university staff and an absence of good financial stewardship. CTV's Wayne Mantika has more.
A group of faculty at the First Nations University say they are feeling the impact of a deficit that they believe is nearing $2 million.
So what I'm seeing here is our university spinning in a downward spiral in a really bad way. We are financially unstable.
In a written statement, the group of faculty say they have lost confidence in the university's leadership and board of governors. They feel excluded from conversation about university matters.
As someone myself who has stood up and sent letters to the board, I'm marginalized as well now. So I know that it's happening. I've watched it and I've experienced it.
Those behind the statement have not identified themselves for fear of reprisal. It follows leak of a 2023 Deloitte report commissioned by a previous board that found evidence of budget overages and breach of some university policies. Alan Adam is a former board vice chair who says the investigation was prompted by a whistleblower.
Whistleblower laws come into effect that the person who did the whistleblowing had to be protected and that they were not to be fired. And we found out soon after that that person was fired as well too. So
Adams says he subsequently resigned his board position.
Now we just have to live with whatever the outcome is going to be, and hopefully they make good changes so that the university can be on good standing.
The provincial government is following the controversy.
But our Minister of Advanced Education will be certainly keeping abreast of that particular instance. But I think largely you're going to find that their funding arrangement was with the federal government.
The current board chair has been contacted for comment about the faculty concerns, but has yet to respond. However, in a previous statement, the board said it has full confidence in the university's leadership. Wayne Mantika, CTV News, Regina.
A new peacemaking center recently opened in the Blood Tribe in Alberta. That story when we come back. Stay with us. Welcome back. A First Nation woman is among those recently detained by Israeli forces after they intercepted her ship on its way to bring humanitarian aid to Gaza. The Gaza-Israel war has seen more than 66,000 Palestinians killed and hundreds of thousands more starving and displaced since October 7th of 2023, according to the United Nations. Grassroots activist and Salt River First Nation member Misagwasin Agnew is part of the Freedom Flotilla Coalition, or FFC, as a passenger aboard the humanitarian vessel known as Conscience. The FFC is attempting to break Israel's naval blockade of Gaza using several ships sailing the Mediterranean Sea to bring much-needed aid to the area. The FFC says early Wednesday morning local time, Agnew's ship was one of 9 intercepted by Israel in international waters. They say a total of 145 non-violent activists from 30 different countries were taken to Israel against their will and are currently being detained. Agnew posted this message on her social media while at sea, just days before the interception.
Every day, the Palestinian people live through unspeakable horror and tragedy. I'm here as an act of Indigenous solidarity, that none of us are free until we are all free. We are a crew of medics and journalists. We are unarmed. We only bring medical aid, humanitarian aid, and our consciousness. This is a call to humanity. This is a call to say that we will not leave you alone, Gaza. We will never leave you behind. We're coming for you.
APTN News reached out to the Canadian government for comment. They say 6 Canadians on the flotilla have been detained by Israel and urge Israel to ensure their safety and swift release. A new peacemaking center has officially opened in the Blood Tribe in Alberta. The facility will house the Kainai Peacemaking Program, a judicial and restorative justice system in the community. And the traditional program had an 80% success rate since it started. CTV's Carson Marziuk reports.
Inside the new Peacemaking Center in Standoff lies an opportunity for those going through the justice system to be rehabilitated and reintegrated into the community rather than serving jail time.
We use our, like I said, our traditional knowledge keepers to intervene and find some sort of peace and harmony. You know, very often the case with the judicial system, there's a winner and a loser, and justice is not really dispensed. So in this case, you know, the whole ideal is to restore harmony in the community.
Operating inside the center will be the Kainai Peacemaking Program, which began in 2009. The initiative is based on traditional Blackfoot peacemaking traditions and protocols to help reduce incarceration.
They will have an opportunity to think about some of the I'd hate to say some of the crimes that they committed, but some of the minor offenses, and that they can rehabilitate themselves. They can turn their lives around.
Between 2022 and 2023, 33% of admissions to federal custody was Indigenous adults, with Indigenous women representing 49% of female admissions. During that same time period, Indigenous adults made up 30% of admissions to provincial correction services, despite accounting for only 4% of the adult population in Canada. Some of those going through the justice system will have the option to take part in the peacemaking program.
When clients do come in, they'll be in a more relaxed setting, a more inviting setting, and that will go towards resolving a lot of the issues in a non-confrontational way.
The 23,000 square foot facility was funded by the tribe's land settlement with the federal government. There is also a dedicated courtroom which the center is working with the province to fill. Carson Marziuk, CTV News, Standoff.
The Union of BC Indian Chiefs voted for their next president at their annual general meeting recently in Vancouver. And once again, Grand Chief Stuart Phillip was acclaimed as president for his 10th 3-year term. Drummers welcomed him in as he celebrated his latest victory. Throughout his career, he has stood shoulder to shoulder with land defenders across BC from the Okanagan to Burnaby Mountain, where he was arrested in protest of the Trans Mountain Pipeline. This will be his last term before going into retirement. He reflected on his time with the organization and what it meant for him and his wife Joan.
This organization represents, and my entire life has been a consequence of Joan and I finding each other. And what brought us together was the movement. What has sustained our marriage was the movement, and we will end our journey still being part of the movement.
We have new episodes of Nation to Nation and APTN Investigates coming up later this week, and today we'll give you the preview of both shows when we come back. Musty Cho for staying with us. St. John's 19 and showers there. Charlottetown 9. Happy Valley Goose Bay 6. Le Grand River 6 as well. Saguenay 5. Montreal 8 and sunny there. Toronto 10 and sun's out there. Sault Ste. Marie 8. Big Trout Lake 9. Thunder Bay 8 and sunny. The Paw 9. Norway House 10. Winnipeg 13, Dauphin 12. Saskatoon 4, Regina 7. Buffalo Narrows 4 as well. Uranium City rain in 4. Fort McMurray 18, Peace River 18 there. Medicine Hat 26, Edmonton 20. Kamloops 18, Quesnel 17 and sunny. Smithers 15, Prince George 16. Dawson 5, Watson Lake 9. Yellowknife 6, Wrigley 5. Tuktoyaktuk 2, Anuvik 2 as well. Baker Lake 3, Chesterfield 0. And Arctic Bay -9, Agulik 0. Karen Pugliese is the new host of Nation to Nation, and she's here to tell us what's ahead on the program later this afternoon after your evening newscast.
Coming up after the news, it's your first Nation to Nation of the season, and we'll have a look back at what's happened over the summer and what's to come. The Liberal government has not changed, but Mark Carney's take on reconciliation is not the same. We'll talk to a panel of journalists about how that's playing out. And looking ahead, will there be an Indigenous candidate for the NDP leadership? Well, not yet. We'll have some news on that may be disappointing about who is not running. And finally, what stories are unfolding in Ottawa this fall? We'll talk about potential cuts to Indigenous Services Canada and if a new pipeline from Alberta to British Columbia is likely. This is all ahead on Nation to Nation.
Thank you, Karen. APTN Investigates also returns this week with an all-new season. In Justice for My Sister, video journalist Tamara Pimentel uncovers shocking details surrounding the death of a young Casca woman in the 1960s. Anne Mary Dick was only 18 years old when she was killed in the small community of Upper Liard, Yukon. A man confessed to the crime, a trial was held, but he was ultimately found not guilty on a technicality. Now, more than 5 decades later, her family is still seeking answers and justice. Here's a preview.
When a family loses a loved one, their story doesn't end. It carries on through prayer and ceremony.
My sister's case is very heavy. Me and my family, we fell apart. We try to get support. We try to support each other.
Anne Mary Dick died over 60 years ago. In Upper Liard, Yukon, her story is a lost narrative. Mary Ann Dick was named after her late sister, and it's her life goal to bring the story of Anne Mary to light.
I worked on her case for so long, and I'll never come out of my head. I'll never come out of my heart. I'm so heartbroken the way she died. Justice failed her. Really failed her.
And you can catch the season premiere of APTN Investigates Justice for My Sister airing this Saturday on APTN. And that's all the time we have for APTN National News Daytime. From all of us at APTN, thank you for watching.